This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Tuesday, the 18th day of January in the year 2022. I'm Gordon Mosley, and here's what we're tracking tonight. Residents of Dartmouth on the Essequibo coast, after holding off protests for close to 4 months, launched a massive protest this morning over the killing of businessman Orrin Boston Jr. back in September. The residents are upset that a policeman accused of shooting the businessman to death in his bed was charged for manslaughter and not a more serious charge of murder. The residents came out early this morning and lit tires on the main access road into the village, demanding that a charge of murder be filed in the matter. The businessman's father, Orrin Boston Sr., said his son never had any issue with the police and was never wanted for any crime and was never involved in any criminal activity. The man said his son was shot dead in cold blood in his home while with his family, and the charge should have been a murder charge and not manslaughter.
To that moment that he was highly wrong, barging into a man's house, he didn't read a warrant to him, just go kick down his door and then get in there and shot him in his bed, sleeping. He was sleeping at that moment. He was sleeping at that moment. So that is wrong. That's wrong. All right. And I'm not pleased with that manslaughter that he get for a charge. He's supposed to be in charge for murder. That's the reason why I'm out here today, protesting that he must be in charge for murder.
The senior Orrin Boston said he is supportive of the protest because justice must be served in the matter. He also said the villagers plan to continue the protest until proper justice is served.
But if they don't change the manslaughter charge to murder, I will keep doing the protest until that decision has been torn up.
The widow of Orrin Boston said she is still overcome with grief and really wants justice to be served. Fighting back tears, she told reporters that she finds it difficult to sleep at nights and does not like recalling her husband's shooting death.
I don't know. It's really hard.
Do you think a proper investigation was done?
No.
What would you like to see happen then?
Mechanics.
The incident took place in September of last year. At the time, government ministers and senior police officers rushed into the community and promised a thorough investigation of the incident. The investigation went on for almost 4 months, and it was only last week that the matter reached the Director of Public Prosecutions, and she advised that a police officer accused of shooting the businessman dead be charged for manslaughter, which is a bailable offense. The policeman, Sherwin Peters, appeared in court last Friday and was granted bail in the sum of $1 million. More news coming up in just a moment.
What is fiber? Think exceptional. GTT Fiber is an advanced high-speed internet product that delivers broadband via fiber optic cables with download speeds of up to 150 megabits per second. It means your internet is faster, and GTT Fiber comes with the added coverage of our Plume HomePass Wi-Fi system. Plume extends your Wi-Fi signal to ensure that you have the best experience in every corner of your home with Wi-Fi everywhere. Upgrade to GTT Fiber today and don't get left behind tomorrow.
It's one of your biggest goals, getting your own home, where memories are made, where happiness lives. You may feel that home ownership or renovation is beyond your reach, but we at Republic want you to know that there's always a way. Ask us about our suite of mortgages. Let's help make your housing wishes come true. Or advise on how the equity in your existing home can finance other dreams and goals. Call or go online to learn more.
Guyana's 2022 International Energy Conference and Expo, under the theme Charting a Sustainable Energy Future, will be hosted at the Guyana Marriott from the 15th to the 18th of February 2022. Meet and engage with energy leaders from around the world. The conference will feature addresses from His Excellency President Irfan Ali, His Excellency Vice President Bharat Jagdeo, Honorable Prime Minister Mark Phillips, His Excellency Chandrika Prasad Santoki, Honorable Prime Minister Mia Motley, and many other highly esteemed speakers. Charting a Sustainable Energy Future, Guyana's 2022 International Energy Conference and Expo.
We've got exciting news! All 12-ounce yellow cab Buster are now only $100. Buster, live in
Come
Welcome back. The attorney representing the interests of the family of businessman Orrin Boston, who was shot dead by a policeman, believes a murder charge should have been filed against a policeman and not manslaughter. Last Friday, the policeman Sherwin Peters of the SWAT unit, and who was originally from Linden, appeared in court to face a manslaughter charge. He was granted bail. Attorney Nigel Hughes, who's representing the interests of the dead man's family, said he intends to challenge the charge that was filed, since the more serious murder charge was more appropriate for the crime.
No, I very strongly condemn the decision of the Director of Public Prosecutions to institute manslaughter charges. We're not going to leave it there. We will commence proceedings, prerogative proceedings, to review that decision with a view to seeking an order of the court directing her to charge the defendant with murder. And the basis for that is this: we have statements which confirmed that he was murdered.
Members of the SWAT unit were conducting an operation in the Essequibo region back in September last year when they burst into the home of the businessman and his family. The businessman was asleep at the time and was shot dead in his bed by one of the SWAT officers. The police force had initially claimed that there was a confrontation, but the force was forced to change that story after the dead man's wife and other relatives contradicted the version and presented evidence of what took place. Mr. Hughes said he is aware of the investigation that was done by the police into the matter, and he's also aware that based on all the evidence the police collected, the murder charge should have been recommended and filed.
The only thing we did not have was the name of the police officer. We now have the name of the police officer, and one of two things will happen. Either we will file criminal charges for murder against the police officer, or we will bring judicial review proceedings against the Director of Public Prosecutions to quash her decision to charge manslaughter and not murder, because the standard operating procedures of the police were clearly breached, and that those are the standard operating procedures for the use of weapons in those conditions. We know for a fact that Mr. Boston was not one of the targets of that SWAT visit to Essequibo. They went there to arrest persons who were wanted for murder, and up to now there's been no explanation.
The attorney also said that apart from the SWAT member being charged, the head of the team should also face charges, since he was the one who led the team and headed the operations. Let's tell you now that the Court of Appeal has granted leave for the Attorney General, Senior Counsel Anil Nandlao, and attorneys representing the Vice President Bara Jagdeo to appeal its 21st of December decision, where it ruled it has jurisdiction to hear and proceed with the election petition case number 99, which was initially thrown out by the Chief Justice Roxanne George for late service to former President David Granger. The leave was granted by Chancellor of the Judiciary, Yonette Cummings, after listening to the submissions from the attorneys in the matter. Lead attorney for the Vice President, Senior Counsel Douglas Mendez, submitted to the court that the matter is one of grave public importance and the leave should be granted. In fact, Mendez argued that the defense is entitled to an appeal as of right and that the Court of Appeal has no jurisdiction to deny that right. He also argued that the only function of the appeal court in the matter is to determine whether the case falls within Section 6 of the CCJ Act. He further pointed out that the matter even becomes more important for the CCJ to determine, because even at the level of the appeal court, there were differing opinions. The court had ruled 2-1 in the matter. Solicitor General Nigel Hawke, who appeared for the Attorney General, shared similar sentiments as Mendez, but he added that if the substantial matter is to proceed without CCJ first determining the technical matter on jurisdiction, then there could be a serious connotational collision, and therefore, before further steps are taken in the case, the Caribbean Court of Justice must first determine the 21st of December ruling. The attorney for the petitioners, Senior Counsel Roysdale Ford, while not directly objecting to the granting of the leave, said the court ought to consider the nature of the order being sought and its ruling on jurisdiction. He said he could not find a similar case before the CCJ where the Court of Appeal was not allowed to proceed with a substantial matter while the CCJ is determining the question of jurisdiction. As a matter, he pointed out that the court should not wait on the Caribbean Court of Justice to determine the matter of jurisdiction before proceeding with a substantial matter. After listening to the submissions, the Chancellor ordered that the matter is of such importance that the CCJ should first have its say on its ruling before proceeding. Leave was granted under Section 6A of the CCJ Act. The Chancellor also ordered that $750,000 be lodged at the Court of Appeal as a security deposit within 90 days. In January last year, the Chief Justice Roxanne George struck out the election petition case, which had been filed by coalition supporters Monica Thomas and Brennan Nurse. The case was thrown out over the late notice of former President David Granger, who is a respondent in the matter. The petition wants the court to nullify the outcome of the elections owing to what they consider grave irregularities discovered during the recount. With the steady increase in COVID-19 cases, the Ministry of Health and its resources have become overwhelmed with the situation and will be making some changes to some of its protocols. With effect from today, the Ministry of Health will no longer be issuing clearance certificates for persons who were in home isolation for 14 days after testing positive for COVID-19. The Ministry will also only issue the PCR COVID-19 tests to specific categories of persons and not everyone who may have been exposed to the virus. Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony.
There are a number of persons who are coming to the testing site and asking for a discharge certificate. Now, when we had 2 and 3 persons coming for that discharge certificate, we can go back, look into the results, check, and be able to issue that certificate. With thousands of persons who have gotten infected, right now we have about 12,000 people who have gotten infected. It is extremely difficult to verify the records to be able to issue discharge certificate for everyone. And as of today, we will stop issuing those discharge certificates.
Some employers have been requesting the discharge certificates from their employees before they are allowed to return to work. But the Minister of Health said 10 to 14 days in isolation is the clearance.
So once you have completed your home isolation, you can go back to work. There's no need for you to take a discharge certificate. None of the public sector agencies require a discharge certificate. And if the private sector require it, well then we wouldn't be able to issue that.
Dr. Anthony also said moving forward, discharge certificates will only be issued to patients who were hospitalized. The National Assembly has tasked the Committee of Appointments to make a suitable recommendation to the Assembly on a candidate from the National Assembly to be identified as a nominee to be appointed by the President to serve on the Board of Directors of the Natural Resource Fund, in accordance with Section 5 of the Natural Resource Fund Act of 2021. While the section did not specify whether it should be a government or opposition member of Parliament, President Irfaan Ali has suggested on a number of occasions that the opposition will have a say on the NRF board. Section 5 of the Act sets out clearly that a representative from the National Assembly and the private sector with experience and ability in legal, financial, business, or administrative matters will sit on the Natural Resource Fund board. The Minister of Finance, Dr. Ashni Singh, is expected to carry the motion of appointment to the House next week when Parliament reconvenes for its parliamentary sittings. The government appears to be moving full speed ahead to operationalize the controversial Natural Resource Act, which was passed late last year, 2 weeks after it was first laid in the National Assembly. President Ali assented to the bill on the 30th of December, one day after the amendments were approved by the National Assembly. His assent paved the way for the signing of the commencement order of the Natural Resource Fund, which was done on the 31st of December by the Minister of Finance. By signing that order, it means the Natural Resource Fund came into operation from the 1st of January. Section 5.1 of the Natural Resource Fund Act provides that the Board of Directors of the fund shall comprise of not less than 3 and not more than 5 members, who shall be appointed by the President, one of whom shall be appointed chairperson by the President himself. In wake of that fire which gutted 2 bonds at the Leparco Shipping Company's Lombard Street facility, the Guyana Fire Service is encouraging companies to ensure that they have firefighting equipment and safety equipment in place. The fire service has launched a probe into the Sunday night fire, but in a statement late yesterday, the fire service said that the Leparco facility did not have any means of fire prevention. There were no smoke detectors, no fire extinguishers or fire hoses installed in the building, the fire service said. It reminded that smoke detectors and sprinkler systems play a major role in preventing fires, while fire extinguishers are useful in putting out small fires. The fire has left hundreds of millions of dollars in losses at the shipping facility. A number of containers were destroyed and several cars and other imported items were also gutted in the blaze.
Guyana's 2022 International Energy Conference and Expo, under the theme Charting a Sustainable Energy Future, will be hosted at the Guyana Marriott from the 15th to the 18th of February 2022. Meet and engage with energy leaders from around the world. The conference will feature addresses from His Excellency President Irfan Ali, His Excellency Vice President Bharat Jagdeo, Honorable Prime Minister Mark Phillips, His Excellency Chandrika Prasad Santoki, Honorable Prime Minister Mia Motley, and many other highly esteemed speakers. Charting a Sustainable Energy Future, Guyana's 2022 International Energy Conference and Expo.
Sonia, you think people easy? People just really want to do their own thing. Look across the road how we building the house low. The building code say you're supposed to be 2 feet off the ground.
And when the place flood, them just be the first to complain.
But you know sometimes we that just contribute to the flooding with we behavior.
You know, boy, we just throw things in the drains and canals. We don't keep the gutters clean and dispose of garbage properly. By the way, you got an emergency kit?
Yeah, Sonia, I got me own and it got drinking water, army medicines, and for say things like band-aids, iodine, bandages.
And me own got in toothpaste, a change of underwear and clothing, toilet paper and soap.
Guyana, our country, our responsibility.
It's one of your biggest goals, getting your own home, where memories are made, where happiness lives. You may feel that home ownership or renovation is beyond your reach, but we at Republic want you to know that there's always a way. Ask us about our suite of mortgages. Let's help make your housing wishes come true. Or advise on how the equity in your existing home can finance other dreams and goals. Call or go online to learn more.
We've got exciting news! All 12-ounce yellow cab Buster are now only $100. Buster, live in
Come
full
get
color.
your Buster, Buster $100. Come get your Buster, Buster $100.
How fast is fiber? Think fast. GTT Fiber has 3 packages with download speeds of 50, 100, and 150 megabits per second. That's fast enough to stream movies and music, to chat with Gran and Fran, to study, and more. What would you do? Upgrade to GTT Fiber today and don't get left behind tomorrow.
Fuel it up and drive, super 95. Tune up, fuel it up and drive, super 95. Tune up. Protect your fuel system, boy. High mileage and performance, boy.
Guy Oil Super 95 gasoline gives you more reasons to drive and is available at 56 service stations nationwide. For affordable price, high performance, and high mileage, choose Guy Oil's Super 95 gasoline.
Fuel it up and drive.
Across the region tonight, the 2022 general election in Barbados will be the country's first in a COVID-19 environment, and the chairman of the Electoral and Boundaries Commission has cautioned that there will be delays that could lead to a late announcement of the results tomorrow night. The chairman, Leslie Haynes, said Barbadians should expect some delays due to the enforcement of the protocols for individual voters, but noted that the eventual voter turnout will determine how late into the night it will take before all results are returned. He also said that due to the application of the COVID-19 protocols, everything will change when compared to previous elections in Barbados. More than 3,700 staff from the commission will be on duty, he announced. Jamaican authorities had detained a former Haitian senator who was a key suspect in the murder of Haitian President Jovenel Moïse in July. The Jamaican National Police has announced. Jamaican Constabulary Force spokesman Dennis Brooks told Reuters news agency that John Joel Joseph, a well-known Haitian politician named by the authorities as a suspect in Moïse's killing, was arrested in Jamaica. Brooks declined to comment on whether the arrest was following a request by the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigations, which is also investigating the murder. It was also unclear where Joseph was arrested in Jamaica. Moïse was shot dead when assassins armed with assault rifles stormed his private residence in the hills above Port-au-Prince on the 7th of July last year, sparking a major manhunt and investigations across several countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. Days after Moïse's murder, the then National Police Chief Leon Charles said Joseph was a key player in the plot, alleging that he supplied weapons and planned the meetings and the police were searching for him. Haiti has arrested dozens of people following the July murder that left a political vacuum in the Caribbean nation. But it has not charged anyone, and the investigation has drawn complaints in the country about delays and intimidation of officials. And finally, at this time, international news. Tonga says it has been hit by an unprecedented disaster in the government's first update since a volcanic eruption triggered a tsunami. In a statement, the government confirmed 3 deaths, 2 locals and a British national. It said some of the smaller outlying islands were particularly badly affected, with all the houses destroyed on one and just 2 left on another. 8 efforts have been hampered by ash falling from the volcano. Volunteers have been sweeping the runway of the main airport to allow planes bringing in much needed drinking water and supplies to land. Communications with the island chain have been disrupted after the single underwater cable connecting Tonga to the rest of the world was severed in the eruption. In its update, the Tongan government said the internet was down, but some local phone services were available and work was on the way to restore full communications. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting and encouraging you to stay safe.